Groundwater chemistry is getting more saline as we move down the site.
Sharp at midday, Peter Hellier and team members from Abu Dhabi arrive on site, joined from Al Ain by Dr. Bridget Howarth and Dr. Drew Gardner.
May last year.
His Highness the ruler was very, I think, foresighted in deciding that although the state of the site, as it was 12, 15 months ago, didn't look particularly promising, but there was still sufficient material here and sufficient resources here and sufficient habitat to make it into what I suspect will be one of the flagship wildlife reserves for the Emirates. So when the ruler's office commissioned Gary Barcher International to come and look at the area, they contacted myself and colleagues like Simon Aspinall and Gary Brown to set up a team to do a preliminary, baseline audit of the environment of Wasit, of the flora and the fauna, and also to look at other aspects. What we discovered was that the site still has enormous potential as a nature reserve, not only for birds but for other things too. One insect that was discovered last year was of a family never previously known from the United Arab Emirates, soldier flies. And during a follow-up audit last week, another member of that family was found. So there are new discoveries for UAE science being made here.
This site, Wasit, we used to know it as Ramtha Lagoons. It was one of the hot spots all the bird watchers visited, and it's on the road crossing from Ajman up into the Northern Emirates proper. And it was a wetland, and there's scrub and dunes around it. The housing came and encroached around the edges, but you can still see today there's wetland areas and they're reverting, it's being restored, and you build it and the birds will come. Already there's flamingos back in here. We've seen it come and go. There's no reason not to expect it to come back to its former glory, and the good work's going on here, and lots of ecologists all putting their little piece in to make sure it's restored to its former glory.
I think from an education point of view, it's a tremendous opportunity. We all see the rapid development that goes on throughout the Emirates here. A lot of great terrain and landscape disappearing. It's just heartening to see something positive happening. And I think from an education point of view, if you get the education centre up and running, it's a start. It's a start, to becoming more, whatever you want to call it, eco-friendly, understanding of the climate, understanding of the environment around you, and it can be fun.
Part of the environmental audit was to determine the noise produced by cars on the surrounding roads and by other nearby industrial activities. This would assist in the landscape design by concentrating further planting to those boundary areas identified as requiring the most sound screening.
We're actually measuring sound pressure levels, and the noise meter that we use is actually capable of turning those sound pressure levels into a decibel reading, and that decibel reading is actually then converted to an equivalent sound level which is representative of what our human ear can hear. That decibel reading is then used to establish the conditions and potentially to undertake further assessments using those noise levels.
The conference that evening provided a forum for reviewing all that had taken place during the week and, indeed, since the project began.
What is the minimum requirements that each one of you have to ensure that Wasit Nature Reserve achieves its full potential and that becomes a world or international recognized nature reserve? Our focus here is primarily on environment, and all the natural scientists are here, the educational as well as the social as well.
Three months later, the detailed landscape and irrigation work started on site. Based on the environmental surveys, the consultants, Gary Barch International, compiled a detailed list of plant material required for all landscaped areas according to a prescribed set of criteria. Selected plant species had to be tough and hardy to withstand the harsh desert-like environment. They also had to be very salt-tolerant to withstand the hypersaline conditions of the Wasit wetland system. And yet, they also had to fulfill the aesthetic function of creating an evergreen screen around the nature reserve boundary. The planting will also provide the centrally important function of providing food, shelter, and nesting opportunities for the prolific and increasing bird population, both resident and migratory. Dozens of planting plans were produced indicating the location and species of every tree, palm and shrub to be planted around the boundary of the reserve. The enormous task of propagating the vast quantity of trees, shrubs and plants was given to the Sharjah Municipal Agricultural Department under the direction of engineer Mohammed Yassin Hajar. Several of the required species were not available in local nurseries, and seed had to be collected from the wild.
We are standing at the Sharjah Municipality nursery at Botanical Garden. So we prepare the seasonal flowers here and prepare the seedlings here, and as well as the other plants required for the, especially for the projects and for the municipality use. So we multiplied here, we collect the plants and we collect the seeds here, and then we shift at the project site.
To ensure the good health and vibrant growth of the new plants, the appointed agronomist Ben Krog undertook an audit of the soils on site at Wasit and sampled the Sharjah municipal irrigation water quality.
The idea behind the whole sampling is to make sure that the soil that they've put here as a topsoil will be sufficient to maintain the growth of the plants that they're going to plant along the verge of this whole highway.
It was a milestone for Wasit Nature Reserve when, on the 21st of September 2006, the first consignment of large date palms were planted. A time for recollection and celebration and wonder at the incredible transformation of the Wasit wetlands. And as we turned the corner into a new year, 450 large palm trees had been safely planted and were thriving.